So, Harry,
Yeah.
you got married recently.
Yes.
It was middling.
You bitch.
If you were crazy rich, like money is no object, the characters in this film level rich.
Yeah.
What would you have done differently about your wedding day, if anything?
I think I would have hired a fleet of helicopters, blow away all the clouds.
Oh, that's nice. It wasn't that bad.
No, but a little bit. You can never have too much sun on your wedding in November. Or I could have taken a trip on Elon Musk's spaceship and been the first couple to get married in space. I don't believe that's been done yet.
Do you think Louise would really been up for that?
Not in her current state.
No.
Not 8 months pregnant.
No.
Probably not. Or I guess I could probably just do exactly how it went because it was a very brilliant day. But just do the whole thing in 3 inches of water.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the classy way to go. Yeah.
It's the last thing I'd want for a wedding.
I will save it. We'll talk about that scene. I've got many thoughts about that wedding.
Cool.
But yes, I'm glad your wedding was not water based in many ways.
No.
Some films are fine just the way they are. Other films sometimes take it way too far. But really, how hard could it get? Let's go beyond the box set.
Welcome back, everybody, to Beyond the Box Set, the podcast where today we are pitching prequels, sequels, and spin-off ideas to crazy rich Asians. We'll also be pitching some drinking games and hearing other sequel pitches from our Twitter followers. But first, we're going to talk about some of our favourite moments from the original movie and catch you up with a bit of a plot summary. I'm Harry, the host with the most crazy wife.
Yeah, I mean, she'd give her a break. She's about to pop.
And I'm joined today by Finn and Mel, the guests with the best internet connection, or
We hope. Yeah.
fingers crossed. Hi, guys.
I mean, we have invested a lot of money in Vodafone broadband, so I'd like to hope it's going to last this conversation.
Hopefully. And joining me, as always, the host with the most education. He's good damn words. It's John Lucas.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, Finn, Crazy Rich Asians. Mel, what do you think?
Why did you pick it? I guess is the first question. Yeah.
Well, I guess you should answer this question, since you're the main picker of this film.
Well, it's just because it's the only rom-com that Finn likes. We've seen it at the cinema when it came out, and it's the only film that he hasn't criticized in any way.
Wow.
It's like, yeah.
So Finn...
No, you know what? Okay.
Is this the perfect movie?
No, I'm going to defend myself here. Bless rom-coms. They're an important genre to the wide, exciting world of cinema. But a lot of the time, I mean, especially for me growing up, it's very hard to relate to a lot of these situations that these people are placed in because they live in some weird, exotic place or they have this sort of crazy, expensive lifestyle, which, you know, obviously the characters in this film do have. But what I like about this film, and it sounds really dumb, but in being set in Singapore and having characters who are not just white, it immediately gives me this sense of, oh, well, actually, these are characters and situations that remind me a little bit of my upbringing, having lived in Southeast Asia for 5 years. And so, in that regard, it's a very tiny little thing, but it makes a huge difference to me. And I think, as it has to a lot of people who've gone and seen this film.
So were you watching this film and thinking, yeah, this was my life. This was my life when I was growing up. This is very similar.
No!
This was his family.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody on this podcast right now is like secretly a billionaire, Finn, my money's on you.
Oh, I wish I was secretly a billionaire. I think to quote Henry Golding in this film, it's oh, we're not rich, we're comfortable. That's always the line that gets used in that sort of thing.
I like how she called him out on it immediately. Just like, that's what somebody would say if they were super rich.
What did you guys think of this?
Yeah, I think we saw this in the cinema when it came out, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think we were the only people in the cinema, if I remember correctly. It was a weird one, but yeah, I enjoyed this. I can't say I related to it particularly, but I enjoyed watching it. I think you're right. It's kind of, it's one of those rom-coms where it shouldn't work, but it does. because it's such an insane world of privilege that this film is depicting, and
It's cartoonish.
it's cartoon. It is. I think that's why it works, because it is cartoonish and it's not trying to not be cartoonish.
Yeah, I think Finn, you're right in that all the other rom-coms, they're always just people in these really privileged situations, but it's just put across as though that's normal, and it's not.
It's like this film says the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, this is not normal, but that's the point of it.
Yeah, and it's considering it's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Like it really clips along nicely. It's got a really good pace to it, because the plot's pretty thin. Like if you actually like pin down the exact sequence of events, there's not really a whole lot that happens, but it's just kind of all very colourful and fun. And I think the cast really helps. It's a very charismatic cast, and I thoroughly enjoyed rewatching this actually.
Yeah.
What about you, Harry?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it too. I forgot almost everything about it.
Well, that's not nothing unusual for you.
That's a good point, isn't it? Sorry, I forgot that I've said that before.
Yeah.
So it was nice watching it for what felt like the first time. No, I really enjoyed it. It was a very good time. There's a lot of characters though.
There are a lot of characters, although most of them don't particularly matter. Like there's only really the main plot that kind of, and then there's some other plots. Like the Gemma Chan plot line feels like they just cut 90% of it out and just left a couple of scenes in. It felt like that was a whole different movie happening in the sidelines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because when she gets like a big scene at the end, I was like, well, okay, this kind of feels like it's come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. It's a very packed cast, and it's I don't think it was actually that expensive to make, considering like what it depicts in terms of the.
Well, they had to hire out a lot of Singapore for a lot of it.
Sure. But I think the budget was only like 50 odd million rather than like 200 million. Like I think they made a little bit go a long way. I mean, like sometimes you can tell
They were not crazy rich producers.
crazy rich producers. Yeah, I think it's like crazy inventive producers. Like
Is that the behind the scenes documentary?
I totally watched that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you can kind of tell. Like, there's a scene where the girls are on a kind of hen party / free shopping spree, and they're all screaming. And it's all going to be high fashion. And then they're all just pulling clothes off racks in a very tight close-up. Like, I thought they were going to run into like this giant mall, like this just giant, super mall. But no, they're just like literally like on a
The costume
sound.
department wheeled these in.
Well, they're on a soundstage, just like pulling clothes off coat hangers. Yeah, it doesn't look that expensive. But...
No.
it was a good time. I think this is a good film. I'm surprised that a sequel hasn't materialized yet, actually.
Yeah.
Because have you read the books, I've review or?
Yeah, I did. I read the first book. I didn't get around like to the second book. But from what I know, the second book is about one of the other characters, and it goes back like to China. It's not a direct sequel to the Crazy Rich Asians and to Henry Golding's character and everything. So we'll see.
Yeah, so maybe they'll retool the sequel to make it a bit more close to the original, because I've heard that it's being produced, but I think they've had some, obviously, coronavirus, and I think they've had some issues with the writers as well. So, but I'm sure it will come, because this film made a huge amount of money.
Welcome aboard, Mr. Young, Miss Chu. Here's the way to your private suite. And some champagne.
Welcome our first-class passengers aboard Pacific Asia Airlines service from New York to Singapore. It is our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. After takeoff, would you like to enjoy the lounge chairs? Should we convert your suite into a bedroom?
We're good, thank you.
Enjoy.
Nick, we can't afford this. These pajamas are fancier than any of my real clothes.
My family has business with the airline. The tickets, they're a perk.
What kind of business?
Real estate, investment, other things. Nothing interesting. Dim sum.
So your family is like rich?
We're comfortable.
That is exactly what a super rich person would say.
Do you guys want to kind of take us through a bit of a plot summary?
Or if you guys
We've
just
come prepared.
Okay, I was going to say, you guys can always say, "Oh, but John, you do it so well." It always works.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We're big fans of the podcast, and we listen, and we feel very bad for John always
Thank you.
always
As
being
you
left
should.
with the plot summary. So I did go through this film, and Melanie was in charge of finding the drinking game subjects, and I just wrote down every single scene that took place with a little arrow that depicted going into the next scene. So we've come research prepared.
Fabulous.
On this.
Cool.
Before I get started, I also just want to say about the characters thing. It's, as well as there being kind of a lot of characters, it hits that ensemble feel of a cast really, really well. And I think we can't overstate this enough, that Gemma Chan and Henry Goulding would not have as much of a career as they have in the British sector without this film. And also, I think any British Asian actors, or even American Asian actors in the case of Awkwafina, who come into the sector as a result of, a role they've done, owe a lot to Crazy Rich Asians. Because before that, I mean, it was slim pickings in terms of what was available. And I think we have to give this film a lot of credit for introducing us and making audiences more kind of open to seeing some of these performers on screen.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, yeah. It wasn't. I believe it was quoted as being the first Western-produced all-Asian mainstream film to come out in 20 years or something. So yeah, these things don't come along very often, and hopefully will.
Isn't it?
I mean, obviously Shang-Chi's recently been a huge moneymaker, so hopefully that is a sign as well that things are changing and becoming more open. But yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, one of the main strengths I think for this film is even the tiny roles, even the characters who are in one or two scenes are played by really charismatic people. So I think that really elevates it a lot.
Anyway, to plot summary. Do you want to go one
can
and
go
one,
first.
or do? Okay,
Yeah,
brilliant.
sure.
I'll go first. So the film opens on a black screen with a Napoleon quote: "China is a sleeping giant. Let her sleep. For when she wakes, she will shake the world." Which I can't tell if it's a compliment or a slightly racist dig at China. But anyway, that's where we start.
Yeah, that was a very portentous opening. That's the kind of thing that you'd expect for a film that's then going to be a war epic or something.
Yeah.
And then it's London in 1995. We see the young family entering a high-end hotel. I think it's the
Colthorpe, yeah.
Colthorpe. And they have a reservation. She's asking to be shown to her room, but she's turned away by the staff that's so obviously racist because they ask her to go look for a place in Chinatown that would be more suitable for them according to the staff.
Yeah, this is cartoonishly racist to these evil British hotel owners.
Oh yeah. It's
All they need is
so
the
bad.
moustaches. Yeah.
But see, this is the thing even about something like that, right? We have so many conversations about racism in the world that sometimes I think, you have to be, it's almost seen as you have to be outwardly racist. You have to call people a specific sort of slang term in order to be specifically offensive. I'm sure there are people in 1995 in hotels like that who did that and thought it was perfectly fine and perfectly appropriate, not realizing that, even though it's depicted in quite a cartoonish way, in the real world, it's quite subtle.
Oh, for
the
sure,
way
yeah.
that things like that are put across, which I'm really appreciative of this film for kind of flagging that up the way that it does.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So they're forced to get out of the hotel, but she gets back at them by calling the owner who sells them the hotel. So when they come back, just a few minutes after being rejected by the staff, it turns out that the young family has bought the hotel.
Now
So they're now all working for them.
that is quite the mic drop that this movie opens on.
Yeah.
And this is Michelle Yeoh.
That's when you
who's-
know they're crazy.
So yeah, this is Michelle Yeoh who's playing a 20 years younger version of herself than she plays later in the movie.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really think about that.
But she pulls. I don't even know if they've done anything digitally, or she just pulls it off. I mean, she's an incredibly beautiful woman.
She's at that age right now. She's at the upper end of that age right now where she looks the same age from about the last 30 years.
Sure.
She could be she could be playing somebody in her mid to late 30s, which I think she was at the start, but she also looks like she could easily play someone in her 50s or 60s.
She's just a very strikingly attractive woman, yeah. But I just she just looks fantastic in this scene. So.
I mean, the disclaimer is she's also standing next to a bunch of kids for much of this scene. So,
That helps, yeah.
You know. We've then flashed forward to 2018 NYU, and we meet Rachel, who is a professor of economics in the middle of a poker game, which later turns out to be a lecture on game theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had some questions about this course that she's teaching. So are they just watching her play a full-blown game of poker just to like teach a very roundabout point about game theory?
Yeah, I was also thinking, like, how long did this poker game go on for? Because obviously we tune in at the very end.
Yeah.
But, like, because also the way the room is set up to watch this, like, hexagonal table.
Mm-hmm.
And the room is in a hexagon. So it's like a purpose-built room for things to happen on that table. What else of the economics course happens just on that table? Like, it's just poker, isn't it?
I love it in movies when you have like characters, when our main character is some kind of professor. They're always like, they always teach English or something, or in this one economics, but like it's always such bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's always absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
I would love if after all the students left, they just held poker tournaments in that room.
Yeah.
That'd be quite fun.
Is gambling even legal in New York?
I have no idea.
Because I know there's like certain parts of America where it's really not legal to do. So
I also wonder, like, what would have happened to the rest of her class if she lost that hand?
Yeah, it would have been really embarrassing. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I was going to show you a point, but I know it took 45 minutes to get here, but I'll just tell you instead. And so just imagine that I won that.
Particularly because she would have lost a lot of money in the context of that game.
Yeah, because she like tips him one chip at the end, and she's got like a whole stack of them. So it probably wasn't like fake chips, like, oh, this is just 1 penny per chip. You know, because then the tip would be nothing. It must have been worth it. So she must have won.
This is your tuition you're gambling.
Yeah, she must have won like at least hundreds of him. Well, Ash.
So then we see Rachel on a date with Nick, played by Henry Golding, and they're arguing about dessert, but we see in the background that a bunch of young women have spotted them and taking pictures and tweeting, calling each other, and how we see how these news that just happened, and he just told her, oh, should we go to Singapore? Mm-hmm. You should come to the wedding with me, meet my family. And this news from like in 5 minutes reaches Eleanor. All back to like Singapore. Everybody knows.
I loved this little montage. It really helped set the scene for the movie, just telling you like what this movie's going to be like, how it's made, sort of thing. When it's just all weird and all the panels coming in and graphics on screen and stuff like that. It was just fun. Yeah,
the way it literally... so this Henry Golding's character, we learn, is this incredibly rich, and he's very famous in this kind of Asian super wealthy community that Rachel has no knowledge of whatsoever. So these two people, these two young women, take a photo of him, and it's like we see it travel around the Asian social media, just go, and it's the point where it reaches her mother, who's in Singapore, I believe, doing a Bible reading. Yeah. And there's a whole long scene where she has a discussion with all of her friends, and then she calls her son, and like and he picks up the phone. And she's like, "So you're seeing a new girl?" And he's literally still at the same bar eating the same meal. It's like this. It's traveled around the world in 2.5 minutes. Like, it's great. But like, that's the tone of this movie, that like really heightened, slightly silly, where you just... I think this scene is perfect for just being like, okay, like I say, this is what this movie is going to be like. Just go with it. Just strap in and enjoy the ride. Because
like before that, when you got the whole Michelle Yeoh in the hotel thing, and like that's fun, but it's not quite assured me that this is going to be a good time all round. Mm-hmm. But then when you have this scene, it's like, no, you can relax. This is going to be fun all the way through. You just know it. And you know, it takes it to new heights later on when it introduces more characters.
Absolutely, and we already see that begin in the Bible circle, because there are these sorts of comments that are made immediately about who this person is and what Nick thinks he's doing and if Nick's coming back. And then the mum rings Nick and suggests Rachel stay somewhere else, which immediately sets the tone of like, okay, the mum is not going to play ball here. And we already get a sense as to what this relationship is going to be like for the course of the film.
Well, especially that we see then Rachel and the mum and her mum picking out the wardrobe, and they have no idea. She's basically being set up. She thinks she's just going to visit a normal, like, family, like her family. And it's like foreshadowing everything that's going to happen later.
How have you dated this man for a full year if he's this level of famous in this very specific circle of people and he's this wealthy, like, and he's never like there's a lot of lies being told to her. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I think also what the kind of very subtle statement that gets made, and again, maybe I'm just going dramaturgically too far into this, is that, you know, the four of us probably couldn't name any Singaporean celebrities or people who are wealthy, but we have Singaporean friends that could list, you know, plenty if you gave them the time to just reel off a laundry list. And I think this also speaks to how, you know, in the West, we're so caught up in our own worlds and we exist almost as if like the West is the only bubble that really matters, and our singers and our celebrities, they're the only ones, and we just expect everybody else in the world to kind of know who they are. And then you see how famous and wealthy people are, well, not people, but like celebrities in China and India and Southeast Asia.
Too.
Well, yes, but you appreciate that it's a totally new and different environment of fame and wealth. And I think that little detail, as much as it's kind of like, really, you haven't known that this person was super famous and wealthy all this time, it also kind of makes that point, which I really appreciate.
Eleanor, is Nikki bringing a girl to Colin's wedding? My Amanda heard it from her friend Francesca.
Eddie says her name is Rachel Chu.
Oh, I thought that Nick was coming alone. Did you know he had a girlfriend?
Nick dates many girls. It's hard to keep track.
Amanda knows everyone, and she has never heard of her.
Rachel Chu. Or maybe she's from the Taiwan Plastics Chu family.
If you want, I have a private investigator, very discreet.
I think we should return to the Word of God.
So then they board their flights. We get this brilliant scene of them turning up at the airport in a cab, and she's got her kind of kitchen-made foil-wrapped sandwiches, and they get whisked away to what is actually defined as the suite of the airplane. And this is based off an actual, well, all the airline-based stuff in this film is based off Singapore Airlines, and Singapore Airlines do have a sort of suite-type, sort of four-wall-ish setup on their planes, which they're basically completely ripping off, which is basically it's Rachel's introduction as to exactly what she's getting herself into on this trip.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane, the first class section they've got in this plane. It made me realise that I'm not sure I've ever been on a plane that even has a first class section.
Oh, not like this, no, for sure.
No, definitely not like this. But I mean, at all.
Yeah.
Like the last plane I went on, I'm pretty sure I could see the front and the back of the plane from my seat.
They don't have suites on Ryanair.
Yeah, I don't think there's like a super rich class for the Ryanair flights to Corfu, Harry. I think it's probably quite egalitarian.
They should look into that.
But if you think about trains, most trains have a first class section. Sure, it's not super fancy, but it's still a specific first class section. But no.
Yeah, this is the first of many scenes when I was like, I feel like Rachel should be reacting more to this, because like she seems to kind of goes, oh, we can't afford this, can we? But like, if this was, imagine this was you and your partner, like Louise dragged you into like this section of the plane, would you not just be hyperventilating at the amount of money you might be like?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
These are like tens of thousands of dollars, I think, to be in these kind of spaces.
I wouldn't be like, oh, he must be rich.
Yeah.
I'd be much more like, we could spend this money on so many.
We need to get off here right now.
I could put a driveway in the house, conservatory.
That's what you go straight to, the conservatory. That's what I would spend the lottery winnings on.
Well, welcome to marriage. I'm very domesticated right now.
So we're introduced to the rest of the family, and I think I've got written down we have a Taiwan-based film director. We have a kind of finance head type person based in Hong Kong, and then we have Gemma Chan, who's I've put philanthropist ?
Like, yeah, she doesn't work. She's a socialite.
She buys jewelry, yeah. Well, no, she wears jewelry that people, she buys a very exceedingly expensive jewelry that she gets at cost because she's such a powerful socialite that her wearing the jewelry adds value to the jewelry. So yeah.
I mean, I do get that, but also, like, if the other two are having to work...
Well, they don't have
I don't think anyone has to work.
What, they just do it for the heck of it?
Yeah.
Like, the film director, we see he's bad, he's horrible, but he's paying for the film, he's producing the film. Just like, they don't have to work, they just want to work in positions of power, just,
Fair enough.
for status.
Fair enough.
But I think also the one who's like the chairman of a business or something, is that not the family business?
Isn't that Gemma Chan's husband?
Yeah.
The one who has the affair, and it does establish that he's not as rich as she is.
Is it him with the 3 kids and they pose for?
Oh no, that's a different relative. Sorry, yeah.
What's he? Is he one of the children, or is he a cousin, or what?
I can't remember. But
This was the other thing that really confused me about this part.
so they're all, from what I understood and from the book, it's like they're all cousins. They're all different parts of the family because Henry Golding has no brother or sister. He's the only one. And that's why he's kind of the favorite. He's the only child. And it looks like he might be the oldest who might take the family business and like do the work. That's what they're expecting at least.
Yeah.
And then after that, we meet the bride and groom at the airport. They pick them up and you have your fun.
Yes, my
fact?
fun East Coast Parkway fact. So the highway that they drive down in this film from the airport is called the East Coast Parkway. And although we don't see this in the film, there's a section of that road where there are no trees. Because most of it is, you've got one road, you've got the other road, and then you've got a row of trees kind of right down the middle that's a kind of barrier. But there's a section where there aren't any trees. And the reason that there aren't is because it was designed in such a way whereby if Singapore ever came under attack and for some reason the airport was cut off, that they could move all the plant pots that are normally there as a kind of road divider, and they could have a kind of backup runway for planes to land.
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
Which is, it's very efficient city planning. Just thought I mentioned that. Right, get back to the important stuff.
Yeah. Then here comes the best part. We get to the food market.
oh,
With all the stalls, we're introduced to the culture in this very amazing way.
This brings me on to it was one of my drinking games, my first drinking game, which is drink every time, or how much of this film do you think was funded by the Singapore Tourist Board?
oh sure, yeah.
A lot.
Because this one, when they're there, it's just a massive advert for so there's all these street food vendors, and they all just make one dish, but they make it so perfectly. This is the best food in Singapore. It's the best food you will ever have. Singapore.
Yeah.
It's true, that scene serves absolutely nothing to the plot, does
But
it?
it's so good.
It
makes you want to go.
I agree with Mel. I think this is what this film does incredibly well. Is it does the travel porn and food porn kind of thing very, very well.
Yeah.
It really made me want to go and walk along that street and eat loads of really nice street food. I was like,
same.
Oh, yeah.
I think everyone who watched this now wants to go to Singapore.
Yeah, so it worked. It was money well spent.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing on sort of as an aside to the food market stuff is that Henry Golding speaks Malay at a point in this film. Now, Henry Golding is Malaysian, so obviously that makes a lot of sense. But it's a good chance for me to flag up that Singapore is a really fascinating... Well, culturally it's fascinating because it's a real mishmash of cultures, Singapore. There isn't a kind of, this is what your average Singaporean looks like. Because it's a country that basically consists of a whole load of people from China who turned up and settled there, a whole bunch of people who were brought over from India to work as construction workers and servants under the British Empire, people from the West who have ended up moving there for one way or another, and then, of course, the ethnic Singaporeans who all speak Malay and who are very much drowned out nowadays by the other three groups. So when you go to Singapore... the most popular the official languages are English, Malay, Tamil. Those are the three kind of official languages. But within that, 30% of the population speaks Mandarin. And then there's a whole bunch of other ones in there as well that kind of just emphasize the fact that linguistically, it's such a fascinating country.
That was actually something I found really interesting about the movie in general, was the relationship it had to language, because there's a scene where one of the characters are all speaking in, and I apologize, I can't distinguish between the different dialects, but I assume it was a Chinese or a Singaporean dialect, maybe Cantonese or something, where they're all talking, and then Rachel laughs, and then one of the characters said, "Oh, I didn't realize you spoke that dialect," and she said, "Oh, I don't. I'm just enjoying seeing you guys having all this family time." But then there's other points in the film where she's speaking to the grandma, and she seems to follow her quite well, and so
yeah, I thought they were going to do the joke where she's prepared like one or two lines or sentences to say to the grandma,
and that's all she's got.
She can speak. But no,
she acquits herself quite well. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I mean, I only speak English and I'm not very good at identifying languages, so I did not realize there were more than 2 languages in this film until now.
Oh yes,
English and Asian.
A lot of languages. I mean, again, even when the Chinesey bits are spoken, I think it's Mandarin, but I wouldn't feel totally confident saying that, because there's a moment later when they're in the Mahjong studio thing, and Hokkien is referenced as well. And then obviously, Cantonese is still quite a spoken language in parts of China. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not speaking with any sort of certainty, but yeah, there are a lot of languages that get thrown around in this film. So then Gemma Chan / Astrid arrives in Singapore, and this is where her plotline really kicks off, because we learn that she goes home and hides all her stuff that she's bought ahead of her husband getting home, so as not to embarrass him with how wealthy she is. Which, yeah, I agree, Harry. It's a weird practice.
And it's like bad hiding places. You'll notice when you come into the bathroom that like something is up there.
Yeah, they are all really bad hiding places. Right. So why was she doing that? Was she trying to hide who she was as well?
Because her family she's super rich, and her husband is only moderately rich.
Yeah.
In the crazy sliding scale of wealth in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be that he feels insecure as a man. And this is the excuse he gives for his affair later in the film.
Yeah.
To skip ahead. So, to avoid making him feel insecure about the fact that she's so much richer than he is, she hides these multi-million pound dollar jewelry and other shopping things that she's done, just so it's not like in his face kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's our relationship where I've already prepared you for my house husband future. And I'm more than happy for you to find my lifestyle, Mel.
And then the next day we see Rachel visiting Awkwafina. She used to be, the character played by Awkwafina.
Lynn, I think
yeah.
her name is,
But
she's Awkwafina for all intents and purposes.
It's one of Awkwafina's best characters, yet her worst hairstyle.
Oh, yes.
Well, apparently she was initially supposed to have a different wig in every scene, but then it just got too complicated. So that would have been fun.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been so good.
I will say, I think, like in pretty much every movie I've ever seen Awkwafina in, she kind of walks away with it. She's not in it very much. She disappears for huge chunks, but she is, for me, very much the highlight of the film. She's very fun.
Yeah.
What's also insane about this is that we meet her family, and Rachel kind of brings Nick into the conversation. We learn quite how wealthy and well-known the Youngs are. And this family are not poor. This family are also
they live in a house made of gold.
Extraordinarily needlessly wealthy. And they are looking up and going, oh my God, they're so rich.
Yeah.
Which just, I mean, to speak about the sliding scale, it really puts into context quite what that scale looks like.
100%.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the point they're making. Her family is like newly rich, where the Youngs, they've always been rich. They're old money. So they're like way wealthier than they are. But also, I mean, they were remodeling the house to make it look like Versailles. Like, that's fucking expensive.
Yeah.
And this is where you have like the rom-com makeover to prepare Rachel to go and meet Nick's family. I mean, I do think he should have said something. Like, she would have just shown up in a normal dress and all these people in this party clothes.
My hot take on this movie is that Nick is an arsehole.
Absolutely. So he really should have said something to her, like, on the plane when they're in that first class thing. Just at that point when, there's no turning back.
You've broken the seal,
they're literally on the plane over the sea, like, it's happening. At that point, he should just explain it then, rather than just not tell her at all, even though she's definitely going to find out.
Did they just sit in silence for the 10-hour flight between you? Like, you see,
They would have slept at some point.
Surely.
Yeah, she must have follow-up questions, because he's just kind of like, she's like, how on earth can we afford this insane super first-class passenger ticket for this flight? And he's like, oh, my family does business with the airline, which translates as my family owns the airline.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I mean, it's like it's fair enough if you want to hide it, but you can't, well, it's also kind of not. But also, there's no way that he's going to hide it, because he's going to go and introduce her to everybody in the biggest wedding in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no way she's not going to find everything out. So you may as well just tell her everything.
Yeah.
Maybe not tell her that, like, I don't think my mother's going to approve of you. You know, maybe there's a better way to approach that. But he approaches everything in the worst way possible.
It's the classic rom-com idiot plot kind of thing, where it's like you just have to accept that these characters aren't asking the questions that every normal human being would ask, because if they did, this would be a 20-minute movie. You know?
True, yeah.
But also, like, in terms of the fashion point, which I guess is the particular point we're making around this particular part of the film, if I were in Henry Golding's situation, I wouldn't quite know what to tell you in terms of, like, what exactly does it mean, because I just don't know anything about women's fashion. So I don't know. I mean, and again, maybe I'm just an idiot. The dress that she was going to pick seemed perfectly nice as a dress. And obviously I know nothing.
The same. I was thinking exactly the same. I was like, what's wrong with that dress?
Well, see, you guys don't have the class. You're not cut out for that upper rich lifestyle.
Exactly. So, you know, and also, I don't know. I'd like to hope that he genuinely doesn't believe his family would be snoshy about that kind of thing. But obviously, I mean, as we see over the course of the film, they are about that very specific thing.
You know what I love about the makeover montages, of which there's at least 2 in this? Mm-hmm. As with all good rom-coms, the makeover montage is just a series of terrible dresses, all for different reasons terrible, until they finally get the most perfect dress in the world. Yeah. Like, there's no, oh, that one's slightly better. Yeah, we're getting there. It's just like, oh my God, that's so terrible for this reason. Mm-hmm. You're wearing a dress made of meat. What's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. And then suddenly it's like, oh, it's the Cinderella dress. Wow.
Yeah, why was that the last one she tried on?
They have to make the montage work, guys.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They can't just, first one, yeah, that'll do. Move on.
Montage must go on.
Yeah. I also enjoyed Awkwafina at this point when she's explaining to Rachel that Nick's family is so wealthy. She actually says the line, they're not just rich, they're crazy rich.
Yeah.
I was like, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, we'll get to drinking games later, John.
Sorry, I'm jumping the gun, yeah.
And like, even when they arrive to the party, it's in this kind of bit of jungle. Nothing is signposted. When they start to drive there, Awkwafina is like, turns to Rachel and says, oh, are you sure? Because Google Maps is asking me to turn around. Mm-hmm. And they have, like, they meet all these 2 guards and they're led through, and like, they see the biggest house you could probably see on the island, and like, with all these gardens. And I think even Awkwafina says something like, oh yeah, that's this amount of property, this is how much it costs, this is crazy.
I was going to say, Harry, that's what you should do with your crazy rich money. You should pay to get your address removed from Google Maps.
I live on a terrace.
There's like a black hole on Google, just like...
It doesn't work.
Like
just
Area
have a
51.
gap in the road.
Nothing
here. We then learn we then get to the party, and we have the awkward Mum, Nick, Rachel meeting for the first time.
Oh, I have to just quickly jump in on a second that you've skipped over. That was one of my favourite moments of the film. There was when they arrive at that.
Oh, the dress bit.
Yeah, and Awkwafina opens. I aspire to this level of preparedness. Yeah. When she opens up her car boots, and she's got like pre-prepared outfits, and they just say cocktail, clubbing, walk of shame. It's like
walk of shame.
Walk of shame was my favourite one. Yes. She is prepared for all eventualities. And then he goes, "You brought a party dress in your car?" She's like, "I'm not a monster."
Yeah. The thing that I wonder is, why has she pre-packed a walk of shame dress
You should always pre-pack a walk of shame dress. Come on.
What is it to avoid doing the walk of shame, or is it to do the walk of shame like with such glamour?
It's the latter, obviously.
Okay, but so what? She's gonna take the walk of shame dress. I know I'm getting into this. Take the walk of shame dress out of the boot of her car and then walk home.
Yes.
Why not just drive home? Yeah. She's got the car.
Because she's hungover. That's why it's called the walk of shame. She can get the car later.
But then leave the car at wherever she was spending the night?
Yeah.
Well, she'll come back and get later.
I'm kind of with Harry on this, guys.
She'll send somebody. She's that level.
Yes, yeah. She'll do the walk of shame. She'll wake up. She'll say goodbye. She'll get into her nice walk of shame outfit. She'll stagger home, and then she'll send the valet to get the car. She's rich.
Yeah.
She's just not crazy rich.
Yeah.
She's sensible rich.
Now, another thing with this. So she gets out this cocktail dress and she goes upstairs hilariously and goes and puts it on. There's never a reveal of what she's wearing.
She comes downstairs.
Like she is back later in the party, and we meet the Asian gay. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really wanted to have Awkwafina like do the Disney princess reveal, walk down the staircase.
Sure, that would have been fun, but it's not her movie, is it? So
no, but it should have been.
I know.
Just like some of these scenes should have been her scenes.
I know.
Because she is the sort of person who, in this instance, would do that slow walk down the staircase while she makes sure everyone looks at her.
Sure. Yeah.
And then no one would look at her, and she'd be halfway down. She'd be like, excuse me.
Yeah.
Or something. That's my best.
That was a terrible Awkwafina impression. But
I was going to say, is Awkwafina from Essex now?
Yes, she's tending the bar at EastEnders, the old Vic.
Get out of my pub. You're not looking at my dress.
Get out of my mansion.
And then, of course, you have the very awkward meeting between the mom, Nick, and Rachel. The mom pretty much ignores her to go deal with stuff in the kitchen, basically acknowledges she's here. Mm-hmm. You know, as any good Asian mom, probably. We asked some like of your friends from Singapore. So they were like, "Yep, that's kind of what happens. That's normal. Don't worry."
Mm-hmm.
Well, but also this is another thing that I learned over the course of our relationship. Right, is that, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this. There's this thing I've learned about recently called speaking woman, in which I basically understand that when women have conversations, they say one thing. When in a kind of ethereal plane somewhere else, they're actually having a completely different conversation where what they're saying out loud isn't at all what they mean. And this is a classic case of this happening. And you see Nick, and I would have been exactly the same in Nick's position going, it's so nice that my mum and partner are getting along. And in the meantime, you can see obviously from all of the context going on, that's clearly not what's happening. But you don't appreciate that until you get to the point where you understand, no, none of them actually mean what they're saying.
Oh, yeah, see, I never got that. That went right over my head.
This is why you taught me well.
And this is also at the party where we learn that Astrid's husband is having an affair. Mm-hmm. She sees some text that he's been exchanging with somebody else. And she kind of draws the conclusion that he's sleeping with somebody else.
It's very clumsy hiding of this affair. Right?
Yeah.
Not subtle. Yeah.
I mean, just put a password on your phone or Face ID or something. Like, she just picks up the phone, the text is there.
Yeah, well, but the notification is there.
Yeah.
Yeah, not if you've got a password on your phone.
I guess you can't do much at that point unless he turns off
Harry, you've been married a week and you're already like... It's like, well, if I was having an affair, this is how I'd do it.
Cut this picture.
I mean, the other thing you could have done is just not had the affair.
Well, yeah.
To state the obvious.
I didn't think of that, actually, yeah. I guess.
Easy out. This is also around the time that we hinted at the offer on the table for Nick to move home and take over the family business, which is kind of an important point because it explains a lot of the reasoning behind how Nick is treated and and also how Rachel is treated over the course of the film, even though obviously Rachel has no idea about any of this context.
Well, this is what he should have told her on the plane.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
By the way, hun, might be moving home to take over the biggest company in Southeast Asia. Bye.
Yeah, because again, it really puts her in an awkward position because then they've got all this resentment towards her because it turns out he was supposed to move back a year ago, but he met her and chose to stay. So they blame her for him not coming back, but that she literally had no idea that any of this was going on, and now she's got to face all of this incredible hostility from this family, and he's totally not prepared her for it in the slightest.
Which I think is the one part I would agree that he's a bit of a dick about, because I mean I understand him not wanting to say it, because obviously he likes being in a position where he can feel ordinary and not feel defined by, you know, his family's wealth. But that particular piece of information does feel really vital to understanding why she's so vilified.
100%. You don't just throw someone into a room with Michelle Yeoh and go, just deal with it. You know? Terrifying.
Particularly because I think, oh god, we're gonna keep calling him Gasian, aren't we? But I think
what did he call himself? The rainbow sheep of the family. That's what he calls himself. Yeah.
The rainbow sheep. Okay. Well, I think it's rainbow sheep that gives this information in the first place. So for her to not even hear it from him feels really awkward.
100%.
So, Oliver, are you a cousin too?
Well, I'm one of the poorer relations. The rainbow sheep of the family. But I make myself useful. Whatever the youngs want, I procure. Golden koi fish, Honghuali furniture, a rare Cambodian gong.
Why would they want to buy a rare Cambodian gong?
Because they can.
And then we get on to the bachelor parties.
Oh dear God.
Where do we start with these?
Yeah, I'd like to just take this moment to apologise formally to you, Harry, because I thought I threw you a pretty decent stag party when I took us on a nice little cottage weekend to Sherwood Forest, but I now realise that I failed horribly because I did not, in fact, buy you your own party boat.
It was cute, Jon.
Okay.
It was cute.
Oh, thank you.
That's cute.
In international waters.
No, my goodness, what a stag do.
It really looks like a nightmare.
Yeah. I think I probably I'd have hated it because I'd have been panicking so much.
Yeah.
About a bachelor party like that, where like there are definitely multiple dead women by the end of the night.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And I doubt there's anybody with any kind of medical training on board. Mm-hmm. Maybe one person, like, in the ship's complement.
Well, yeah, they're on international waters, so they're literally in a legal no-go zone.
Yeah.
And the guy who's organised the bachelor party, who's this other super rich guy, he's just literally firing a bazooka full of fireworks in just any direction.
Yeah. Which also, for any nearby planes or boats, that's a clear signal of distress. Like, oh, they're putting flares up.
Focusing on the important things, Harry.
Well, that's the first thing I thought, like, because you see it from like far back, like they fire off something into the air, and I'm like, oh, this is a twist. The party boat's sinking. Okay,
it suddenly becomes Titanic.
Yeah.
But I think what's even weirder about it is that how do Nick and the groom actually get off this boat? Oh, there's a helicopter.
Yeah, because Nick knows how to fly.
Yes, which seems like an awfully
well, he's crazy
an awfully
rich.
Convenient thing to just know how to do.
Yeah, he's crazy rich. Like,
well, yeah. So it's like those two. They get off that boat and they don't go back home. They just go to like this weird little private island with a little floating barge and just sit and have a beer and talk about proposals.
And at this point,
Where'd
Nick
they get the beer?
And like, did you guys notice where they parked their helicopter? It was balanced on top of a small rock.
Oh my God, really?
I don't think that they can actually drive a helicopter.
But at this point, because this is Nick talking to his best friend who is getting married. The whole reason he's come over to Singapore is because his best friend is getting married. And at this point, he pulls out a ring of his own and says, "Oh, I'm going to propose to Rachel today."
Yeah.
And I'd be like, if I was like the best, I would be so angry. I'd be like, mate, my wedding.
Yeah.
Wait a week. Pull focus. Like, that is a huge wedding faux pas for me. That's up there with that scene in Love Actually when the best man hires a full brass band to do a prank in the middle of the ceremony.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't, by the way.
I was going to say, can you imagine if, that beautiful moment when Louise walks down the aisle and, like, everybody please be seated, rather than me, like, shuffling off to the front row and sit quietly, just went, hang about, and just brought in a full band. You would have punched me in the face.
I don't know, actually. If you'd like full on recreated that scene from Love Actually, I'd have been like, well, I enjoy the movie. That's a solid reference.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't do that.
Let's
And
not
hey, I like
revisit
brass
that old
music, I like
ground.
the Beatles, it works.
Sure. Okay. Well, I apologize for yet another failure on my part in this one.
Piece of shit.
My mum's parents announced their divorce at my mum's wedding, so you know.
Oh wow.
Maybe this is just, you know, maybe this is just this is just part of the culture.
That's class. That is like as nice as yours was. That is my dream wedding. Like some proper family drama. Somebody stands up and goes, "Well, we're getting divorced." Like,
Oh, John, you're horrible.
Meanwhile,
back to the film. Sorry. Yeah.
For some more drama, we see that Amanda and her bridesmaids and friends went to the beach resort you were talking about earlier. It's kind of like a spa place. They have this contest of how many clothes can you pull off a rack in 5 minutes.
This weird shopping thing was so ridiculous because it's like, so we're going to do some shopping and it's all paid for. And it's like, no, you've just brought out some clothes that have clearly been pre-selected. So, like, you're not really doing shopping. You're just choosing from pre-selected clothes which ones you want to keep. And also, given there is no maximum or anything, why are you just picking, like, one or two off the rack? Why not just take the whole rack? It's on wheels. It's like, I reckon I can wheel two of these at once. These are mine now. I'm having these.
Harry knows how to do it right.
Yeah.
These
I mean,
these
given
women are
what
not
these
doing
women
a
do
good job.
to women who get in their bad books, I don't think I'd be brave enough to take a whole rack from that soundstage.
You'd be one of
Well,
those
yeah, you
people on
can
like
see
Black
that-
Friday in America, wouldn't you? Just like was like wrestling people to the ground for like a half-off microwave oven or something. Like,
Wow.
Half-off microwave oven.
intense.
I mean, if it had like Siri integration, then yeah, sure. If I could just tell it with my voice to do things.
So then we discover that one of the girls who was talking to Rachel casually slips in that she's been dating Nick before he was dating Rachel, and that she's involved with the family business, and that they kind of expect Nick to take over very soon. And this is where like she's upset. She leaves. She returns to her room, and she sees the fish.
this is such a shocking scene. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, when did they do it? When? And how doesn't like the bride know? Does she know what happened? Did she say, yeah, it's okay, sure, go ahead?
Yeah, the bride is like very absent from these because they meet the bride early on and she seems quite nice, but then
I think it's like we can't make the bride the villain.
No,
of this,
sure.
because
No.
she's going to be the bride at the end, and you need to be happy that she's getting married.
yeah.
Um,
God, yeah, her friends are vicious.
yeah,
Like, horrible women. Yeah.
yeah.
And again, she takes it so like in stride. Rachel does the fact that someone has gutted a fish and like done this kind of grotesque Godfather kind of tribute on her bed, and it just cuts to her just burying it, and she's like, "I'm not going to cause a scene." Like she really takes it on the chin.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, those friends are vicious, but they're also really good at acquiring really, really big fish.
yes,
fish was
that's what I mean. Like, where did they get the fish?
Well, Crazy Rich.
Yeah.
I'd love it if somebody kind of knew they were going to do this, so they kind of brought a cooler with the fish in it they'd already
Yeah. You
purchased.
see there's a whole farmer's market going on, just for revenge fish, just like the revenge carp section of the.
Yeah.
I mean, I was quite surprised that this beach resort even had a fashion boutique. So, maybe
true, yeah.
maybe they do have a fishmongers,
Probably.
somewhere on the campus. I don't know.
I thought I was here to meet your family, go to your best friend's wedding, eat some good food. Instead, I feel like I'm a villain in a soap opera who's plotting to steal your family fortune.
What happened?
I mean, I met Amanda. She told me that everyone here thinks that I'm the evil person that prevented you from moving back to Singapore last year when I didn't even know you were supposed to come home.
You have every reason to be upset.
I'm not done yet. There's also this gutted, bloody fish that Araminta's friends left for me in my hotel room on my bed next to the words, "Catch this, you gold-digging bitch." Written in big, fat serial killer letters.
Is that all that happened? I mean, please tell me that's all that happened.
Then they come back to Singapore, and after a kind of small chat between Henry Golding and Rachel at the hotel, they go back
Where he's
to
like,
the
"Oh, they
family
put a
homes
dead
with
fish in
dumplings.
on your pillow. Oh, I'm so sorry, babe. That's been so hard for you." He should
Poor
be
thing.
furious
Yeah.
on her behalf. He should be so angry, and he's just like, Oh yeah, sorry, they're kind of a handful. Oh, did it really smell? Oh.
I mean, you chase them with the dead fish.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I'm not
Is
a
this
Nick
what you
fan.
would do,
I'm not a
man?
Nick
You
fan in
keep
this
the
film.
fish.
I keep the fish. I go chase them with the fish.
I reckon I'd have punched someone.
Yes,
I'm not a violent person, but I reckon
you'd be so angry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet none of us came up with having the fish in our sequel pitches. This is a real disappointment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. It's just a really sad, tie-in with the Little Mermaid. It's just like this poor little fish.
We never knew what happened to Flounder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh no, he grew really long first.
Yeah, he got really hench, and then.
Anyway, then we get to the dumpling scene.
Yes.
With the Botox gag.
Pinch, pinch, pinch.
What's really nice about this is that even though obviously you're not Asian, you still have a kind of Eastern European equivalent of this.
That you know how to make so well. Approved by my mum, by the way. So, you know.
So this is, to be fair, guilt-tripping family members into making dumplings is, you know, a universal cultural treat.
What is it, dumplings for you as well, or is it something else?
Well, they're called pilmeni, or they're also known as vareniki, or they're also called in Poland pierogi. They're just Eastern European kind of meat or mashed potato wrapped in a kind of flour batter thing.
Yeah, the only thing that changes is how you pinch. But
it's
pretty
give or
much
take
like,
exactly the same thing.
It's exactly the same. And that scene is basically where we learn that the mom has never been accepted by the family. That like the grandma doesn't like her very much.
We learn about the ring. The special ring that she didn't get.
Do you know, my favourite fact about this, I did a little bit of reading up on the production. So when they were filming the film, Michelle Yeoh was presented with the options for this, this big ring that was going to be central to the story, and she was like, "Nah, not good enough. I've got one of my own." And that ring is actually Michelle Yeoh's own ring.
Really?
Yeah, that is fierce.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah.
So does the Rachel actor now still have that ring?
I'd
like to hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure it went straight back to Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, we also learned that she wasn't first or second choice in the eyes of the mum. Which, I mean, again, this is another interesting point which maybe we'll be addressing in some of our sequels, that the dad is completely absent from this film.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the excuse given is he's away on business.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of suspicious. And I guess potentially also a nice way to tell this story that it's not driven by the men. It's very much driven by the women of this family.
For sure.
The mum is acting the way she is, but she's acting the way she is out of pressure from her own mother-in-law. And that is kind of being passed down generation to generation. Including the "you'll never be enough" kind of side-eye line.
Oh my god! If Michelle Yeoh looked at me in the eyes and said that to me, I think I would literally shit myself.
You'd believe it. You'd go, "Okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah, I would. I'd be out there. Yeah.
But Rachel is like, "No, I'm not having none of that." And we have the second
makeover too.
Makeover. Yeah. This is the one with the great line from Rainbow Sheep, when he says she's wearing this one, like you said, Harry. There's the progression of obviously inappropriate dresses before they arrive on the perfect dress, and there's the one where it's just this crazy multicolored. She kind of looks like, well, I thought she looked like one of those ice creams, those little ice lollies that's like different layers of color,
like a fab.
A fab. Yeah, I thought she looked like a fab, but Rainbow Sheep had a much better description. Albeit quite an offensive one when he said that she looks like a clown's tampon.
Yeah. Then it's been a heavy day.
It's been a heavy flow day. Yeah. What a line.
I'm not sure if it's working or if she looks like a clown's tampon.
On a heavy day.
So then we get to the wedding, including the affair reveal, which I guess is the kind of sort of climax of Gemma Chan's weird little subplot.
Yeah, there just
this
aren't
film.
enough Gemma Chan scenes for it to land as well as it could have done. I think that's the problem. She's kind of an afterthought in the movie. But yeah, I mean, we have to talk about the wedding itself, surely, because I have many thoughts on this.
Yes, okay.
Nightmare of a
Guys,
ceremony.
please take over with your thoughts on this wedding.
I mean, where to begin? Like this water-based. Again, how angry would you be if you were a guest at this wedding? If you hadn't been told, and you've got your best clothes up. It's gonna stink for a start. It's gonna absolutely reek.
Well, like, it might be a thing where the water's only coming down the aisle.
Yeah, but even so,
it's blocked off
you still
from
got to walk
from
out
going
of
down
it.
the
Right?
chairs. Yeah. Now, it looked fantastic, the wedding, because there were plants everywhere, and they said they spent like 40 million or something on it.
Yeah, I like that joke because I think we're supposed to think that the other characters are kind of making fun of the wedding and being like, oh, this is so tacky, like, and like they say, oh, they spent 40 million on this. Oh, we're Methodist. Our limit is 20, like 20 million on a wedding day. Right? Madness.
Yeah. But yes, they've got all these plants, and it looks fantastic, and it looks like a garden, and even Michelle Yeoh was like, "Wow, is this a garden or a church?"
Yeah.
And yeah, then just before the bride walks down the aisle, they flood the place.
Yes.
And so it becomes less of a garden and more of a bog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. What's romantic about that?
And like, it was cute, and I was wondering, like, okay, so how's she going to get her way down the aisle? Is there going to be like a little boat, or is she going to like, suspend herself from wires from the ceiling and sort of float across like that? No, just going to get a wet dress.
She's just going to pull her dress up with these giant
She doesn't even pull her dress up.
Well, she does like a reveal where she's got these like
Oh, yeah.
golden wellies on that she just kind of clomps down the island.
Yeah.
I really wanted someone to slip.
Yeah.
That's the occupational hazard. Just someone goes like, whoa, face plants into the water. Like,
Yeah.
It never really.
You're a
lets you
very
know
specific kind of wedding guest, aren't you, John?
I am the one who lives for the drama. I can't help it. I'm always kind of rooting for things to go wrong.
Is this a church or a paddy field?
They spent 40 million on the wedding.
Really? That's too much. We're Methodist. 20 million is our limit.
I know.
So then the wedding happens. We get to the after party, and this is where we learn that Michelle Yeoh has hired a private investigator to look up Rachel's story. And this is where we learn that Rachel's mum's husband, I think is what they specifically describe, is alive in China, which gives the family the impression that Rachel has been lying the whole time, but obviously Rachel has no idea about any of this. And then Rachel gets really upset and runs out of the wedding.
To hide at Awkwafina's house.
Yes, to the hovel that is Awkwafina's house.
Yeah.
But yeah, this reveal about the... do they not say that the mother had... Their version of it is that the mother had a child from an affair, and that's the big scandal.
Yeah.
So, but it was really convoluted because I was like, so who's dead and who's alive? Is is Rachel's birth father, as in the man who her mother had the affair with, is he still alive? In which case, she should be much more invested in the fact that she now has a father.
Yeah.
I'd feel like that's the takeaway from this story. Not, I'm so embarrassed in front of my boyfriend's bitch mother. But that doesn't even get addressed, the potential that she now actually has a father for the first time in her life. Or is the father dead and there's some sinister stepfather who's out there somewhere, also never really discussed again. Like, it's very strange. I'm imagining that's probably a lot of this is dealt with in the books. I wouldn't know.
Or maybe it's the kind of thing that will be brought into some sequel pitches to come.
Oh, okay. Well, let's draw a line under it then and leave it there until we get to that then.
Before we move on, I didn't have it ready, but how much did you all appreciate Rachel True's sick burn to her soon-to-be ex-husband? She finishes with the line, "It was never my job to make you feel like a man. I can't make you something you're not."
Oh, that's not Rachel's line. Yeah. That's Gemma Chan's line.
That's Gemma Chan.
Gemma Chan.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This website's quoted it wrong.
Yeah, no, it's Gemma Chan's line, and
I knew which character it was.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just said
sure.
the wrong name.
It's the last scene of the film as well, so
Yeah.
we're not there yet. But yes, it's a good line.
Is it not in the car?
No, it is literally at the end.
No.
Is it?
Yeah, and in the car
There's
they
a
just have their
separate
kind of
full
breakup.
breakup scene.
Yeah.
Oh, they've got multiple. She says multiple sick burns.
Yes.
Sorry.
All right.
Basically, Gemma Chan's a really good actor, and when she says things, she really delivers them well. That's the point we're making.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's not just my fault that things didn't work out. You're right. I shouldn't have kept things from you. Hidden my shoes, turned down jobs, charity work, worrying that it might make you feel lesser than. But let's be clear. The problem with our marriage isn't my family's money. It's that you're a coward. You gave up on us. But I've just realized it's not my job to make you feel like a man. I can't make you something you're not.
Then Rachel's mum flies out, paid for by Henry Golding, which again, very nice of him. And you can't help but feel bad for Rachel that this entire film has been context that she really should have been given before this film started, that she was never given.
What's the time frame with this? I often wonder about this with where her mother's travelled halfway around the world on. No, has Rachel been sat like weeping and moaning in Awkwafina's house for like a week?
I got the impression it was like at least a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't the mother have other things she could be doing?
What, the mum?
Yeah. She's a single mother. She works.
Yeah, but there's probably nothing more important than her daughter.
Oh, whatever.
You be a parent, John.
Clearly not valid.
Yeah, I got the impression it was about 2-3 days.
Okay.
But anyway, then she comes, and then she tells Rachel the story of what happened in China, which sounded to me like abusive husband, met somebody else, had a child with this other person, who I assume is Rachel, and then fled the country.
Yes.
Because the husband was kind of going to be after her. That was the gist of what I understood was going on there.
Yes, it was definitely a bit convoluted, but I think I took the same from it, yeah.
And after that, Nick and Rachel, they meet again somewhere in Singapore, and he proposes. But she notices that it's not his mom's ring or the family ring, and she says no, because she doesn't want him to choose between her and his family. And we got to the Mahjong Game, where she plays.
Yes.
Yeah, she meets the mom, and apparently they play with other players who are deaf, so they can just have their conversation. How convenient!
Convenient, yeah.
It's very, very convenient. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea how mahjong works, so I was like, I'm pretty sure this is pretty intense, but I literally have no idea.
Yeah. And she's like holding one piece, and like, is she
like,
about
the fence?
Is she about to win or what?
But again, this is one of the things that I think is so impressive about the way that this film is made, is they could very easily, for kind of pandering to a Western audience purposes, have made it a more Western-y game. You know, they could have made it, you know,
chess, it's not
Monopoly,
poker
yeah.
or gin
Play really intense round of Cluedo, yeah.
Well, but you know, they could have made it a game that was more understandable to a Western audience, but instead...
Well, chess would be the classic one, especially when it's like... you know, when somebody's the queen, and there's
that would have been a bit
bishop
too
and,
on the nose, I think.
Which
yeah.
personality are you? Oh, I'm a rook.
Yeah. Checkmate, Michelle Yeoh. Mic drop.
I mean, listeners, if any of you out there think you're a rook, please write in.
Because I don't know the rules of Mahjong. I was really just like, I had no idea what was going on, who was winning, who'd won, and she's holding this piece and just sort of fondling it. And like, is this the winning piece?
Yeah.
Has she got it? Is it like poker? What's happening here? And she put it down, and I was half expecting her to go Mahjong and then just walk away.
Is that how Mahjong games end? You just say Mahjong.
Well, I think like chess. Like
okay, sure.
Or Uno.
Okay, yeah. Go fish,
you don't
Michelle.
You don't say Uno when the game's over. You say it when you're down to a card. Anyway, the point that I make is I think it's an indicator of good filmmaking, because we don't actually know what happened in that game, but we do know that there's this really important scene going on, and the dialogue allows us to get to kind of parallel, for the game to kind of parallel what's happening in the conversation, and for us to feel like we understand even though we don't. She might have been putting that hand down at the end and have lost really, really badly. We'll never have any idea as to exactly how well either of them did in that game, but we can go away with our own impression as a result of the way that they scripted and then shot that scene, which I think is really impressive.
Yeah.
Then Astrid has the full breakup scene. This is the one you're referring to, the, you know, I can't make you feel like more of a man one. Astrid, this husband is very confusing, because for the entirety of the film, we seem to see him skipping events, missing out on opportunities to spend with the family and with, you know, the kid and the wife and all that. And then all of a sudden, as soon as it's like, okay, they're breaking up, he seems to feel really concerned about getting his visitation rights in, which really confused me about exactly what the motivations of this character were.
Yeah, I think confusion, basically. I liked how, clearly by Gemma Tran's making, he thought that he was the rich one, because like when she says like, well, you keep this apartment because you bought it, and he's like, but where will you go? Where will you live? Like, you've got nowhere else to live. Where? Because this is the apartment that I let you live in. And then she just like, oh, well, I've got 14 apartment blocks. I'll probably stay in one of those.
Yeah. I'll be fine.
Wouldn't we all like to be in that position?
Just like, oh, she's more than capable without me. Okay, cool.
It must really reinvent the whole I'm going to sleep in the spare room or I'm going to sleep on the couch concept. Oh, I'm going to sleep in my apartment block.
In my luxury penthouse. Yeah.
I'll sleep in the spare skyscraper.
Yeah.
After that, we see Rachel getting ready to leave. She gets on the plane, and we have Nick who follows her. And like they try to have this conversation, and all these people on the plane wants them to rush and interrupt them, and he finally says like, oh yeah, I need 2 minutes with this girl to propose, basically.
Again, if I was a passenger on this plane, I would be incandescent with rage at this point. I would be so angry.
I would love to
do it on
see
your
this
own
film
time. Get
reshot
the
with an
fuck off
angry
my
John in the
plane.
middle of it.
Like, at least wait until the plane takes off, and then it's a bit of entertainment. Like, you could have hidden, and then in midair, then you've got nothing's going on anyway.
Yeah, but then what are they going to do about the party that's being thrown in? In the inevitability that she's going to say yes.
Yes, exactly. The privilege.
Yeah, I guess that they're not holding up the plane.
Are they not?
I don't think the plane's waiting to take off because of that. Like,
surely what about when they get? What about Rachel's bags? They're gonna have to take them all off again. She's fully loaded on.
Oh, what do they? They get off the plane after this, don't they?
Yeah. This place is definitely getting delayed.
Fair, but then he did have to do it before she got on the plane.
He didn't though. That's what he could have done it before she got on the plane.
Proper before.
Yeah.
Run through the airport sort of thing. Oh yeah, we could have done with the running through the airport scene. A rom-com's not quite complete without it. So
true, yeah.
You're right.
Nick is an arsehole.
But also, who is this person who just became the mum's best friend?
I know,
in this scene.
That's the unrealistic traveller who's just like, oh, I'm so happy for you. Yes,
well,
say
no,
yes.
That's not unrealistic. Like, if somebody proposes and it's a somewhat romantic, a very rom-com proposal, and she says yes, like, you're gonna cheer, you're gonna get into it. Maybe this woman has nothing else to live for. She lives for this proposal. But why it is we then cut to her and her and the mother have got their arms around each other like they're old friends. Like, who's this?
Maybe she's like the mum's version of Awkwafina.
I guess, yeah.
She also had a friend and she's hooked up with,
Yeah. Because, there's so many characters in this and everyone's got a friend and, I'm really struggling to keep track of everybody. It's like Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. But, then this one comes up like, this person is nothing to me. Should I know this person? Was she getting it from the start? I don't know. Anyway.
And this time, when he proposes, he has his mum's ring, the green one. So, she sees that she has accepted her. That it's kind of her. She gave him her benediction. And when Rachel says yes, she knows she's not going to take him away from his family. And this is why he had to do it before the plane takes off. Because then they have the big happy ever after party.
Which would have been so depressing if she'd said no.
Yeah. Which also, I wouldn't have wanted to, in her position, I wouldn't have wanted to go to that party.
No, these are still people who left dead fish in her bed. Yeah. These are horrible people.
Yeah, there's a couple of people that she would want to spend time with, Awkwafina and family.
Sure, yeah.
Minus that creepy brother.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't really talk about him.
No, but just hold off on that one second. Michelle Yeoh, just so they can have that sort of reconciliation hug, but they clearly don't want to spend an evening together.
Yeah.
Because they share one look and then Michelle Yeoh just runs away. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, she didn't really form any relationships that were positive with anybody.
No, it's a room full of bitches.
Yeah, most people she actively hates. Including the grandmother, who I thought was going to have some sort of redemption at some point. Never,
she's a
never
monster.
No redemption from that grandmother. I thought she was going to be like the friendly one that we like.
Who gave Michelle Yeoh a bit of a dressing down at the end.
Yeah, just say like, well, I accepted you, Michelle Yeoh, so you need to accept her. Like, nope, not at all. The grandmother was the worst of all of them.
Still a bitch.
I thought that was good because it was less of a cliche, but
yeah.
I know what you mean. But yeah, we didn't talk just briefly. We didn't talk about the brother of Awkwafina, who there's this in that really touching scene with the mother when she flies out and she tells her sad story about how she's had she had a child out of wedlock and she had to flee the country and all this kind of stuff. And then they hug it out and they're hugging and crying and it's lovely and they're lying on the bed together, mother daughter, it's great.
Yeah.
And then there's this chubby pervert just like leans in, takes a bunch of photos on his iPhone and he's like, I'll email them to you later, and then he like shuffles out again, and they both just like burst into laughter. They're like, there's a pervert in our room. How charming! Like
ridiculous,
bizarre. He was the most bizarre character.
He was, yeah. He was funny, but he was funny in a. I hope everyone watching this realizes this is just a movie and this isn't okay behavior.
I still think the most bizarre character is that best man that planned that bachelor party.
I mean, he's up there too for sure.
Yeah. Before we move on,
he has to end up in prison, right?
International waters, John.
Before we move on to drinking games, I want to offer the disclaimer that two of our best friends are Singaporean, but they're Singaporean Indian, and they would be remiss if we came onto this podcast and didn't mention that to a lot of Singaporeans that weren't, to a lot of Singaporeans just full stop, they really, really don't like this film. Not because, there's anything particularly wrong with it, aside from the fact that it depicts Singapore as a nation and Singapore as a people as basically, they're all just super, super rich. And they're all, everyone in this film seemed to be of Chinese origin, which was another point. So before we end this plot summary, it's just worth saying Singapore is a really fascinating, diverse, interesting, exciting country. This friend did an episode of Passport People on Singapore, so if you would like to find out more about the country and what it's like, please go to that and realise that this film doesn't quite tell the whole story on that.
Well,
this message was brought to you by the Singapore Travel Authority.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, a good segue from that, because I think we're pretty much done with the plot summary. So before we get to drinking games, Finn, do you want to use this moment to just talk about your show?
Oh, go on. So I have a podcast called Passport People where I talk to people from around the world about the places that matter to them. Jon and Harry have already been on and did a fantastic episode on Leeds, which I highly recommend you go back and take a look at. We're gearing up for season 5 at the moment, which should be out about the time you are hearing this right now. So look at Passport People wherever you get your podcasts and there'll be something interesting there for you.
Nice.
Fantastic, yes. And we'll add a link to that on our episode blog as well, so on the website.
Cool.
So, all good. Thank you very much. So, shall we move on to drinking games?
Yeah, sure. So, first one I got, which I already mentioned, is drink for anything that might have been funded by the Singapore Tourist Board.
Sure. Or just drink for travel porn generally. Huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there's not just the food market, but there's all the amazing architecture that's out there, all these super, super expensive, rich buildings and constructions, and it looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And makes me want to go.
Same, very much so.
I like big shots of beaches and just these crazy parties, and hey, it looks fun. I want that life. I can't afford that life.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah.
Move to Singapore.
I think I could before, John.
No, but it's definitely out of the question now.
Maybe you can. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you guys want to go with some drinking games? Or?
Okay. Drink for every time the family is mentioned.
Oh, yeah. The young family.
Yes, the young family.
Like, if you drink every time their status is mentioned.
Yes.
Big time, yeah. They're like the royal family of Singapore.
Yeah.
Probably richer than our royal family. That's probably one of the jokes.
Yeah.
I had this one's quite specific, but I had drink for ab lighting. Did everyone else notice this? This is when I realized, okay, this movie knows what it's doing. This is a very self-aware movie. There are so many sequences when either Henry Golding or Gemma Chan's husband are like just conveniently shirtless. And the lighting on the abs, there's like literally, it happens more than once where they'll be stood in front of like a lamp or a window and they'll be like perfectly lit. So there's like a little window of light just shining directly onto their abs.
Mm-hmm.
Really,
no one
really
was
tickled me.
complaining.
No complaints. I just thought it was really funny.
I've also got drink for when anybody makes or eats any food.
Oh yes. Again, just drink for. You're just listing off all the porn here. So first you had travel porn, now food porn.
I
Yeah.
love
Food
porn.
porn.
Yes,
yeah.
I know.
Property porn.
Yeah, property porn.
Yes.
A lot
Definitely.
of that. Drink, this is a good one I've got. Drink for any time the word crazy, rich, or Asian is said. And if two
Oh,
of them
dear
are said
God.
at the same time, drink twice.
You're right. That is very
Absolutely.
dangerous, but yeah, absolutely, that's a very good one. That would be productive, yeah. I had drink for clunky exposition or dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a lot of that in this movie where they're like, but he's the second cousin of the richest man in China. Like, there's just lots of stuff that people just say that's just like not the most natural in the world. But
Drink whenever Rachel and Nick kiss.
okay, do they kiss a lot?
It's not too much.
Okay,
For a drinking game.
not excessively, but enough.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
This is for one if you only want to get tipsy, but not sloshed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, often I say ridiculous things like drink whenever someone speaks or something like that, and it's just
You can tell when Harry's having a slow week. Yeah.
We had drink for every time the inadequacies of Rachel are referenced in one way or another.
When she
So
gets
kind of,
like
you're not good
undermined.
enough. Oh,
by-
she's not got enough of a name. Anything like that. Drink.
Yeah, she really goes through it in this movie, and I think she handles herself very well.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I found quite interesting. Drink for musical stings, as in there's lots of like pop music in this film.
Oh yeah. I really enjoyed it.
I loved it, but I thought it was really interesting that they were, I think almost all, if not all of them were like Singaporean or Cantonese or cover versions of Western pop songs.
Well, I think it's the theme of this film.
This
It's
kind
like
of culture clash kind of theme, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was obviously a choice, but I thought it was quite interesting that they had because there was Yellow and like
Material
Coldplay.
Girl.
Material Girl, yeah. There's loads all through the movie, but it's not like
Falling in love with you.
yes, it's not like you're not hearing. And I wondered if it was, and maybe Finn, I don't know if you would have more of a perspective on this than I would, but I wondered if that was like a comment on this kind of the way that they're super wealthy, that they're so wealthy and was not supposed to take it. Sometimes I think the film wants us to like judge them a little bit for being a little bit crass, maybe, or a little bit ostentatious. And this kind of how they're trying to be like it's like they're so wealthy, but they're trying to live like this picture of what wealth should look like, and it's very much based on Western ideals. Like there's a bit where Awkwafina's family, when they're in her home, which is like covered in gold, and there's literally a Donald Trump joke.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we bought this. We got the design from Trump hotels. Like, I wondered if like
all
the use of
gag
Western
about
pop.
there are hungry kids in America.
Yes, exactly. Like, I just wondered if like the use of Western, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that's just how it is in Singapore. There's lots of Western pop stuff being covered by local artists, but I just wondered if that was like the use of Western pop music was like some kind of statement about how it's in some way trying to replicate Western culture rather than like being authentic to themselves, kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want this podcast to run over, so I'll give a very potted history of Singapore as a country because it's very different to Indonesia and Malaysia in that it was specifically founded to be a free port. The reason that Singapore is as wealthy as it is was the British Empire decided we're going to make Singapore a tariff-free port. So anybody can come with their stuff and they can trade it. And that is what has allowed so many kind of business people and tradespeople across history to kind of come to Singapore and spend a lot of money there and end up making it their home. And this is why Singapore is very much defined as this sort of mishmash of cultures, because you had Chinese sailors who would come and settle down with local women. You'd have British officers who would settle down with Indian people who were brought over from India to build some of the buildings there. It is this kind of mishmash of cultures. And even after it went independent, that was very much the kind of line it continued and still continues to this day to take, is that it's not traditionally Asian. The things that it understands and the things that are like very Singaporean are things that are international, are things that are global, and therefore, as much as there is a lot of Indian and Chinese cinema that comes in, there are also a lot of Western influences as well, because in the same way that Hong Kong you know, by nature of having been part of the British Empire for over 100 years, you know, it doesn't feel totally British, but it does have a very British feel, you know, into certain parts of it when you go. Singapore is exactly the same. So yeah, I think that explains it. It's
so it probably was kind of somewhat
it's
of a
more
choice,
likely to embrace Western ideals and take them a lot more to heart as their own than Malaysia or Indonesia would.
Okay, that's interesting. Cool. And a lot of them are bangers as well. So
exactly. Great soundtrack. Drink for anything where you look at it and go, oh god, that's too expensive. Where you're just like...
For anything you can't afford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you drink for everything you can't afford, you're going to be drinking through the whole movie.
Yeah,
oh
see, that's a Harry drinking game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, let me rephrase it. Drink for any time you're like, I will never, ever be able to afford this, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even aspire to being at this level of wealth.
Yeah, no, they're spending more on like the wedding that's like 40 million. You know, they're spending more on a single day, which is very true. I'm sure, like, for example, people like Kim Kardashian or various Trumps and Murdochs spend that much money as well, or any celebrities really. You know, they're spending more on a single day than any of us probably combined will earn in our entire lifetimes. It's crazy. It's crazy wealth, crazy richness.
And we have one last one. It's drink every time you have a Mean Girls episode. Like where they...
Ooh. Yes, very good. Yeah. They are mean girls. They're very mean girls. So, yeah. My last one is drink for a fabulous costume change.
Oh, yeah.
This is film. This is definitely, you know, it's definitely a rom-com.
Waterfall for the montage shots.
Yeah, absolutely. Waterfall for the montage. But the costumes are probably one of the strongest points about this movie. It's very, very eye candy-ish. So, yeah. Harry, do you have any more? Or are you all done?
I don't. I'm done.
Cool.
That's
great.
us.
Shall we move on to the sequel section then?
Yeah, let's do it. Do you guys want to go first, or do you want us to go first?
Sure, we can go first.
Go ahead.
So, should I do one plot line and you do the other? Okay. Do you want to do the wealthier one or the poorer one? Okay, you do the wealthier one, I'll do poorer. Okay, so our sequel is called Crazy Rich Asians 82, which is kind of a bit of a take on the This Is England films. And basically, we're taking a lot of the storylines that feel quite important to the original film regarding the parents specifically, and we're taking it back to when those parents were exactly the same age as these characters are now. So we're going to flip between the two stories, and half of it, which Melanie is going to do, is the story of Henry Golding's parents, and the other half is the story of Rachel's parents.
Okay.
So Henry Golding's parents, we know they met at Cambridge, both studying law. And we kind of see them living in Cambridge and what it was like to be Asian and to live in Cambridge at the time with the hints of racism in daily life. And he eventually, we suppose he's older, so he eventually graduates while she's still studying. And they've been dating for around a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So they're like, oh yeah, okay, this is becoming serious, so we're going to go home and meet each other families. From what we understand, they both live in Singapore, so maybe they go home like for holidays. When they do, the dad's family pushes other girls onto the dad, like as, oh, this is more suitable for you. So we see the mom, she's trying to be more kind of perfect. She's trying to fit the ideal that the grandma has for her son. But unlike Henry Golding, we've decided that the dad would be more tempted. That like you kind of see that it creates tension. He might not be able to resist. He's like, it's his family, so he might break under the pressure and just like goes and chooses somebody else. But then he finally like asks for the ring. But the mom, she overhears that the his mom said no.
Yeah.
So, she's kind of like, okay, this is it. There's no point. She breaks it off and goes back to England, to Cambridge to study. And we see the dad following her and eventually, like, I think, what did we say? He kind of meets her at the university and he proposes with that ring he had designed for her. and commits to standing up to his family. And this is where she says, okay, I'm just gonna drop out. I found a husband. I'm gonna commit to the family, and they move back to Singapore.
Yeah, it's very much the dad making the decision that Henry Goulding didn't. That actually I'm going to go back to Singapore, and this is the life I want, and, you know, please come with me as part of that.
It's kind of like the road not taken, kind of compared to the road that Henry Goulding takes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we wanted this story to have a lot of parallels to the original, but also to be a little bit different in terms of the decisions that some of the characters made. Any questions on that one before we go to the other side of the coin?
No, sounds good.
Okay.
Let's go on to the next one.
So, while this is going on, because we're going to... As a film, we'd kind of imagine it flitting between the two plot lines at given points, so that we see the kind of... the contrast between the kind of massive wealth that we're seeing in this plot line and then the very much lack thereof in this other plot line, which is the story of Rachel's mum. So... We start Rachel's mum's plotline as a friend moves... Rachel's, like, friend from, like, a while ago moves in as the neighbour to her and her husband. And the mum kind of recognises this and goes, oh, that's nice. The mum and her husband's relationship, it's been good, but it's gone sour over time. Like, nothing that's particularly driving it. We're thinking maybe the employment situation in communist China is a little bit kind of better at some points and not so good at other points, which also kind of gives us a kind of indicator of the time. He drinks a lot, and she feels quite lonely and isolated in a place that she isn't very familiar with. Because the other thing that we've decided about this is that this place that they're in China, it's not her sort of hometown. It's very much the husband's hometown. And maybe she moved because she had to get out of where she was living and find work. But she's ended up coming to this other place because she's settling down with her husband now. So when the friend comes, it's quite a big sort of like, oh wow, this is so exciting. Here's somebody I know. It feels familiar. So the friend and mum get to know each other again, and they get to know each other and they reconnect while seeing this city. So we see a lot of these shots of them in this kind of small Chinese city, seeing the place. You know, maybe some food market shots, maybe some nice building shots. And we see that their relationship is really beginning to grow. And they start an affair eventually, but they're very secretive about it because the mum's husband is abusive. The mum's husband definitely wouldn't like that. It'd be big problems if he ever found out. So she and him very much try to keep this affair as secret as possible, which is further complicated by the fact that the mum and the husband are actually unsuccessfully trying to start a family. Because one of the things that's really been a problem in their relationship is they haven't been able to get pregnant. And this is something that she has taken a lot of the brunt for, but it's generally created problems in their relationship. But then, as a result of the affair, the mum eventually gets pregnant. And the husband is really happy about this because the husband thinks, oh, this must be my child. But the friend, on the other hand, who she's having the affair with, is absolutely racked with guilt and feels terrible and feels awful and thinks, oh God, you know, I can't do this. This is really, really bad. And so the friend decides that he wants to tell the husband, and then he eventually goes and he does tell the husband. But as soon as the mum has clocked that the friend wants to tell the husband that this is what's going to happen, the mum secretly, without kind of telling anyone exactly what the plan is or where she's going, packs a bag with kind of her basic stuff and leaves and heads towards the port and gets on a boat and travels to America, which is basically where that story then picks up. So that's those two plot lines make up Crazy Rich Asians 82. And the other thing about that we wanted to say casting wise is that, like the original film, we want to bring in a whole new fresh batch of young talented Asian actors. So we'd like to imagine that nobody will know these people pre the film being made, but that as a result of starring in this film with the Crazy Rich Asians brand on it, that they'll become household names, much like a lot of the actors in the original have become.
I can totally. This is one of those films. Obviously, it's a series of books, but I can totally see this. Like, if they ever get that first sequel off the ground that they've been producing for a while, this could it is one of those things that could really run and run. I could see this being like a TV show, for example. Like, I think that there's so much plot in there that you could pick up on and take away, and as you say, it could give a real platform to a group of actors who often get short shrift in white-dominated Hollywood productions. So yeah, I think that could really work. I
can
really
100% see it as a TV show.
Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised that hasn't been kind of mooted yet, but yeah, definitely. Very good, very good. Is that it then? Yeah.
Yep, that was Crazy Rich Asians 82.
Fantastic, I love it. And also anything is set in the 80s. That's got some.
Yeah,
John sold.
I don't know what Singapore 80s fashion was like, but I'd like get like a load of like Singaporean cover versions of like 80s synth pop songs. That'd be really great. Like, I'm well up for that.
But that's one of the things that I think would be really nice to see is the same kind of bright, exciting, vibrant shots that we see in the original, translated with a little bit of kind of clever set design and costuming into wealthy upper class 80s Singapore, and also really, really downtrodden 80s Chinese city. I think that contrast and seeing them together in the context of the original would work really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Fantastic. Okay, shall we move on to our idea?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So for our idea, we kind of looked at this original film, and one thing that really jumped out at us was that it's very much a Cinderella story. There's definitely a Cinderella vibe to Rachel's narrative, how, she's a poor girl and she's brought into this very rich family that doesn't necessarily belong to. She encounters a lot of opposition.
The end of it, she runs away from a party in a blue dress while holding her shoes.
I mean, it's all there. Yeah, it's all there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you guys got that.
Yeah. It's the Fairy Godmother secret.
No, but how many times have we seen that film without clocking
3 or 4.
That's amazing.
Awkwafina is her fairy godmother.
I mean, surely the rainbow sheep is the fairy godmother.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe both of them.
Yeah.
But like, it does literally get mentioned a couple times. Like they reference like the Audi that Awkwafina drives is orange.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think they refer to it as a no, she'll turn into a pumpkin after midnight or something like that. And then the rainbow sheep does call her Cinderella at one point, or someone does. So like, I clocked all these little sort of ties to Cinderella, and then
You're blowing my mind, Harry.
So we thought that we'd sort of dig into that a little bit, and so we've called this one "Crazy Rich Disney Tropes."
Oh yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
John, if you will.
So the framing device for this, it's going to start with like a prologue, is that it's going to be picking up after the events of the original film, and it's actually Rachel's about to get married to Nick. It's like the eve of their wedding, and Eleanor, Michelle Yeoh's character, has decided to finally make peace with Rachel. She realizes now that for all of her scheming, she can't stop this wedding. It's going to happen, and she's kind of come to kind of respect Rachel for how kind of plucky she's been and for being such a worthy adversary. So she decides to finally make peace, and she does so by revealing her own backstory. And so that's going to be the prologue, and then this sequel is going to kind of flash into a prequel, and it's kind of going to tell the story of how Michelle Yeoh herself, as is referenced in the original film, how she kind of came up from quote unquote nothing, how she came up from a kind of humble background to fall in love with a rich multi-billionaire Singaporean, and then join this elite family and kind of ensconce herself into this elite family. And we're going to do that via the medium of a few Disney movie tropes. So, Harry, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. So do I read out these titles at the start of each paragraph, or like at the
You
end?
can choose when to reveal when you think.
Okay,
because then I'm hoping Finn and Mel can maybe help us to throw in a few more references here and there if possible.
Ooh, goody.
Okay, so we've got a few. We've picked a few Disney films, and they make up a few paragraphs each, a few sections of this story. So you can see if you can work out what we're talking about. So
they're not subtle, so it'll be pretty easy.
Yeah. The flashback starts 30 years earlier. So she's a young girl who manages to get a scholarship at Oxford University.
This is Michelle Yeoh's character, yeah.
Yeah.
Could still be played by Michelle Yeoh because she is ageless and immortal. So, yeah.
She has no money and has to work incredibly hard to pay her fees. She takes a job as a maid for a notorious billionaire playboy with a bad reputation. He is initially very intimidating. But over time, she sees his softer side and they fall in love.
So clearly that's... can you guess what Disney movie we've gone for there? Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast, absolutely.
There we go. This is fun.
But the blocker to their marriage is his domineering mother, who refuses to accept a commoner into her family.
And this is obviously the grandma who, because it's revealed in the original movie that the grandma was just as reluctant to accept Michelle Yeoh and didn't think she was good enough. So obviously we're going to touch on that a little bit. So yes, she try as she might, Eleanor can't bring herself to be accepted and respected by this crazy rich family. So but she does love this man, this beast that she's fallen in love with. And so what she does is she hires a crazy rich consultant to help her to kind of transform My Fair Lady style. I know that's not a Disney movie, but she transforms My Fair Lady style from kind of a low-born commoner into the poised and elegant society lady that we see before us in the original film. And her mother-in-law is very impressed by this, but she still won't accept the marriage until Eleanor plays her final hand. She reveals that she's pregnant. Now, the mother-in-law is absolutely furious, but she is also backed into a corner because if her son has a baby out of wedlock and that becomes revealed, that's a huge scandal at this time, and she can't afford the scandal. So she reluctantly agrees to allow the marriage to go ahead. However, she has one final condition, and that is as soon as the baby is born, the baby belongs to her.
So what's that one?
A Sleeping Beauty.
Nah.
Is it not? No.
This is a bit of a stretch. Well, it's kind of, it's more of My Fair Lady thing initially, but then this bit, the idea is that basically she's had to give something very valuable of herself away, a part of herself, if you will, away in order to gain access to this wealthy family. So it's kind of the Little Mermaid, yeah.
But
that was more of a stretch, that one.
In Into the Woods, you have this exact plot line. When,
yes, you're right.
The
I didn't think of that.
Goes and asks for the baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of these tropes repeat, but yeah, basically that's the idea. She's had to trade something very valuable,
point, isn't it?
Yeah. So she has to give her baby to the grandma as soon as it's born, in order for the marriage to be accepted, which she reluctantly agrees to do.
So then the grandma, she locks Nick away.
The baby is Nick, obviously.
Yeah. She locks the baby Nick away in the tallest tower of her palatial Singapore mansion, and Michelle Yeoh never gets to see him. Over the years, he's raised as the perfectly wealthy bachelor, but he's restricted to a very sheltered life, and Michelle Yeoh is very rarely able to visit him.
So, I mean...
Whilst Henry Golding's hair keeps going longer and longer
Yeah. We weren't sure whether to go full Rapunzel with that.
I mean, I definitely wanted to give him a little ponytail.
Yeah.
At least.
I would pay a lot of money to ask Henry Golding to grow his hair out.
So then, just because that one was short.
Yeah, you go ahead,
yeah. So then he's raised as this perfect, rich young bachelor with perfect manners. But what he really wants is to be a real boy and see the world. Michelle Yeoh secretly helps him, but never tells the grandma.
Maybe Michelle Yeoh could be like the blue fairy in this one. Like, she can kind of sneak into the mansion and give him opportunities to escape and see the world a little bit. I don't know. But, yeah. So basically what we're thinking is that the story... So Michelle Yeoh somehow manages to orchestrate Nick's escape from his grandma's clutches. This is when he's come of age. He's 18. And then he flies out to New York, where we kind of meet him. So he's spent his entire life in this very sheltered, wealthy environment. Has never really had an opportunity to see the real world. So now he comes to New York and he's completely a fish out of water. He doesn't know how to handle himself. He doesn't really know how to exist without his cushion of wealth and privilege. But he manages to meet and fall in love with a scrappy young New Yorker from a single parent family called Rachel. And she shows him around and teaches him the ropes. But he's always too afraid to tell her how rich he really is. So it's always kind of a bit of a mystery as to why he's so naive about everything, how he doesn't really know how to just manage his day-to-day life. So he's never able to quite explain that to her. But nevertheless, she accepts him and she teaches him how to live life on kind of a non-mega rich budget, which includes going to a lot of cheap family restaurants to eat, where they eventually fall in love over a nice big bowl of spaghetti.
I was like, which one is this? Which Disney joke?
It's kind of I'm thinking it's like a So it's like a gender reversed Lady and the Tramp, where she's, quote, well, it sounds a bit offensive. She's the tramp, basically. You know, she's the. I don't mean it in a like pejorative way, but
she's
like,
the tramp.
Yeah, I mean that's what Michelle Yeoh would have said, but like, you know, she's the street smart, you know, lives on the streets of New York kind of girl, and he's Lady. he's the posh one who's been living in a little kennel of his own making for his entire life. So, and that kind of brings us to back to the start of the original movie, really, because we end with them falling in love, and you know, that's where we are at the beginning of the actual movie, Crazy Rich Asians. Do you think there's any other Disney tropes we could have worked in there, though? There's a lot we didn't really touch.
I'm trying to think about it, actually. I definitely feel like there's a Snow White one to put in there, where maybe before he meets Rachel, he meets seven New Yorker friends who he gets along with really well because they're his height. So
yeah.
Sorry, Asians who don't like the short stereotype, but it's true.
I was just gonna say, it's walking a thin line of offensiveness, but I think we can just about survive that. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. Maybe he starts going out clubbing a lot in New York, but he's so naive he doesn't really. He could almost be like the princess from Enchanted, where, you know, he's just so completely naive, but he's stuck in this very you know, New York's quite an intense place to live, even if you're not like a secret prince. But yeah, maybe he like goes out clubbing and someone spikes his drink and he ends up in a coma, and only a true love's kiss from Rachel can wake him up. But instead of like a glass coffin, it's just like the ICU unit of a New York hospital.
I mean, or maybe if we wanted to bring that same trope back to earlier in the film, it can be that maybe, I don't know, somebody from one of the rival families, or maybe like a jealous relative wants Nick out of the picture, and so sends someone to kill Nick in the tower.
Ooh.
But then actually the person that's sent can't do it and says, you have to get out of Singapore, and that's the reason that he leaves.
Oh, that's good. So yeah, the grandma, maybe she's the Wicked Witch from Snow White at this point. Yeah, she tries to have him poisoned, sends an assassin, maybe like one of the cousins.
Sends Rainbow Sheep.
Yeah, sends Rainbow Sheep on an assassination mission, but yeah, doesn't have the heart to do it and helps him to escape to New York.
Nick,
that's
you're
great.
in danger.
Yeah, you're in danger, girl. Yeah. Oh, can we get Whoopi Goldberg into this?
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's, unless you've got any more that you wanted to add to that.
I mean, I thought that was excellent, guys.
Yeah. Amazing.
That's an amazing range of Disney tropes that you've managed to sew into what is still quite a cohesive storyline.
Yeah, I think Crazy Rich Asian people, call us. We can franchise this.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So that's our Crazy Rich Disney tropes sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Shall we move on then to listener submissions?
Go for it.
Just got a handful this week.
We have some that we can sort of contribute as well. So once the listener submissions are done,
fab.
We'll submit our own listener submissions live
have you
on
done some
air.
like quick fire ones?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
that's great.
bite-sized
Okay,
ones.
that's fun. Okay, we've only got a handful this week, so that should work nicely. So, Kate McGregor said, do the book, because Kate's obviously read the book. She said, do the books. In the books, Rachel's father is also revealed to be one of the richest people in the world. Mm-hmm. So I think Rachel in the second book ends up being richer than Michelle Yeoh, so it kind of, she one-ups her. And then for some reason, there's a bizarre murder subplot where Michelle Yeoh tries to have Rachel poisoned.
Ooh.
So these books sound like they get very soapy as it goes along, yeah.
That's very Snow White.
That is, yeah. Maybe we really cottoned onto something here, I don't know, yeah. So that's one. Just follow the plots of the apparently increasingly insane books. Rob Bennett said, Crazy Rich Cajuns. It's the same story. It's set in the world of super rich Louisiana Republicans. Like that.
Yes.
Everyone's got like giant mustaches and says like, I say. Andy Smith said, Crazy Rich Australians. I've definitely watched that movie. So they're all like crazy rich, but in Australia. What could be funnier than that? And Julio from the Contrarians podcast, at Contrarian Prime, our dear friends, had said, this franchise writes itself. Crazier Rich Asians, the craziest Rich Asians, Rich Asians Asylum, Meanwhile, what poor Asians were up to. Middle-class Asians have problems too. And the dramatic season finale, tax season.
Oh, brilliant.
Very
well
good,
played,
very good.
Julia.
So,
Well
yeah,
played.
those were our listener submissions. So, if you have some as well, then
Yes, okay.
yeah, fire them over.
Do you want to do that one first?
So we have Crazy Broke Asians, where we
Crazy
see
broke Asians?
where we see Rachel and Awkwafina's college years and how Rachel teaches
Ooh.
her how to live like an American on a budget, like an American student. And as you said,
Like it.
you mentioned like, oh, not everybody drives sports cars or not everybody goes to the fancy restaurants. And we have like Awkwafina a bit like, oh yeah, but I have the money. Why don't we just go there when she wants to live like a normal American?
Mm-hmm.
We had
Very
a
good,
sequel that followed Astrid's life following the divorce, which we dubbed Crazy Rich
Ooh.
Asians The Bachelorette.
Like it.
Nice.
We also have Crazy Rich Mini Asians about Rachel and Nick's children.
Oh, that's cute. Crazy
And the
Rich
various
Tots.
drama
Crazy
that
Rich
they have to
Toddlers.
go through as, you know,
Oh, wow.
heirs to such a wealthy family. And then, and this is a nice political note to end on, we have Crazy Poor Europeans. The same story as
Oh,
Crazy
no.
Rich Asians, set in a post-Brexit town which was anti-Brexit, but received European funding and is now worse off. Sorry, pro-Brexit. Pro-Brexit, received European funding and is
Yeah.
now worse off. Crazy Poor
In the
Europeans.
ruins, yeah. Crazy poor Europeans. Wrote it on themselves, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Very, very good. Okay, I like it. Was that all of them, yeah?
Yeah, that's us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for sending in those listener submissions. If you did, we ask for your listener submissions every week, a few days before we record, by putting posts on Facebook and Twitter where you can post your ideas. So make sure you like and follow our pages if you don't want to miss out. To listen to more episodes of Beyond the Box Set, you can subscribe and browse our back catalogue on any podcasting platform, including Apple, Spotify, Google Play, and many others, on all of which you can also leave us a review if you so wish. And I guess it now falls to us to just say thank you very much to Finn and Mel for this picking a fantastic movie and being such fantastic guests.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a really fun one to talk about. I think you've chosen well. Any final words? Anything you want to plug? Or I know you've already done your little Passport People plug, but feel free to do it again. It bears repeating.
No, I think we just, well, I think I speak for both of us, where I think we want to take this time to say thank you to you guys, because we have spent many a train journey, many an evening cuddling up on the couch, listening to Beyond the Box Set. There are so many wonderful episodes of this series, and it is a crying shame that it's coming to an end, but you have given so much to so many of us listeners, more than you guys will ever know. And yeah, we're really grateful, not just to have come on to this podcast and to have been able to share this film and Moonrise Kingdom from before, but yeah, thank you for inviting us into the Beyond the Box Set family. And yeah, this podcast, we're gonna miss it.
Oh, that was so sweet. Thank you. That was a good. You were a good choice for a guest, for one of our last guests. So thank you. That really does mean a lot to us. And your check is in the mail. So, yeah. Oh no. That was all lost in post. I'm editing that right out. That's getting cut. That's just waffle. That's not making this. Yeah. No, fantastic. Thank you guys. That really does mean a lot to us. And so yeah, we are wrapping up. We are coming to the end. I believe if we stick to the schedule we have planned, this will be our episode 248 of 250.
That's right.
Which means next episode is 249. I can count.
Yeah.
Which will be my last ever pick.
Yeah, I believe so.
So next week, Harry, I've been saving this until the very end. It's a film that it means a great deal to me. If you don't like it, I'm well. There's no stakes because we're ending anyway, but we'll see. I think it'll be fun to talk about either way, though. Next week we're going to do a little film called, and on a similar, on a not dissimilar theme to this one in some ways, another wedding-based film. Mm-hmm. We're going to do next week a film called Muriel's Wedding.
Yes.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Classic. My actual favorite film of all time. So.
Good. That is well earned.
Yeah. I really wanted to save that for a special occasion, and what could be better than the penultimate episode? So
absolutely
fantastic. So thank you once again, Mel and Finn, so much. It's been an absolute treat, and we will definitely, if not on this podcast, we'll meet again on some, maybe, well, I'll probably cross paths on some Eurovision based thing, but we'll we'll find a way to collaborate again for sure. So
yeah, it's been great. It's been great to have you on both times, it's been really great that you guys have been are highly likely final guests.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I'm gonna cry now.
Oh, don't cry. Right, great. Well, we'll see you next week, guys, for Muriel's wedding.
Yeah, thanks for listening, listeners.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Rachel, these people aren't just rich, okay? They're crazy rich.